Then suddenly the topic switches, and I have no idea what they're saying. And then the Germans look at me like, "Wait, what's wrong with you? Like, you speak German? You were just speaking German a second ago. Like, why aren't you saying?" And it's like no, it's like so hard to explain. It's like sorry.
Now I'm stupid.
I left school before they started. They brought up that stuff. I don't remember. I didn't learn that stuff.
How do you explain it to somebody?
You can't. It's the Germany Experience, the podcast about life in Germany as seen through the eyes of outsiders. I'm your host, Sean, and welcome to the show. If you're new here, subscribe to the podcast on any of the major podcast platforms. Or for links to do it, go to my website, thegermanyexperience.de, and you'll also find all kinds of other information there. And before we go any further, I just want to remind you, the Expat and Spouses Monitor survey is still running until the 8th of March. It's a project to understand the wants and the happiness of expats living in Germany. And if you want more information about it, go and listen a few episodes back to my interview with Amaya, who is one of the people involved in the project. Or go to expatsmonitor.de. Right, when you move to any foreign country, you're basically forced to reinvent yourself somewhat. And it's based on the culture or the language and how proficient you are with the language as well. But how does this affect your identity? This is something that has come up on multiple episodes of this podcast over the last year. And it's something that I enjoy talking about. And this week, I discussed the topic with the two hosts of the podcast, Americans in Germany drinking whiskey, Geoff and Alex. I had such a fun time talking to these guys, just as I did last year when I was on their show. We also discuss how they came to Germany, their podcast, and I try and figure out just how much whiskey they actually drink every week. Here are Geoff and Alex. So, a few months ago, I don't remember exactly how long ago, I was a guest on a podcast, also a podcast based in Germany, run by expats about the expat experience in Germany. And it was called Americans in Germany Drinking Whiskey. And the guys that host that podcast are Alex and Geoff. And now I have the honor of having them on my podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's an honor for us to be real.
We had a really good time last time, so we were really happy you asked us to come on.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun talking to you. And I think there were all kinds of things happening, like cameo appearances by my daughter and squeaky chairs on your guys' side. So it was we had a lot of laughs.
Yeah. Basically, we're like the girl hoping for the second date. You know what I mean? And when the guy called, we're like, yes. You know.
Oh, he called.
We got the email.
Well, I was very glad that you guys decided to join me. So as I said, for the listeners of mine that maybe don't know about your show, it's called Americans. You're Americans in Germany, living in Germany. I see what you guys have done so far. Drinking whiskey. So that's kind of...
we drink whiskey during the show. So
it's pretty self-explanatory.
It's a literal translation of what we're doing for our show.
We're not the most creative when it comes to branding.
So what I was going to ask is, something that I often wonder when I listen is, how much whiskey do you guys actually drink every week?
During the show, like it's like a glass of whiskey. What if you went to a restaurant, you ordered a glass of whiskey? It is, like 2 fingers of whiskey, and that's what we drink during the entire show.
And
basically,
if we really like the whiskey, we'll have maybe 2 of those.
Right.
And then after recording, we'll celebrate. We just finished recording. We'll have a 3rd one.
But actually, not. It's funny. Like, we're not huge whiskey drinkers, so like we've so far had, I don't even know, 52 or 53 episodes, and we each have 52 or 53 bottles of whiskey still sitting there. So the only day we drink whiskey is really
Wednesdays.
On Wednesdays when we record our show. Like, we're not huge whiskey drinkers in between.
Yeah.
I mean, we do sometimes, but we're not the drunks that everyone thinks we are.
No, we're not. We're not raging alcoholics.
I'm very disappointed. I kind of like picture like you've got like them trophy cases in the background, all the whiskey bottles that you've.
We do actually.
We do. That's a real thing. My whole apartment, my living room has all these bookshelves, and my girlfriend has all the books, and I have all the whiskey on the shelves. But we're running out of space quickly. And then we also have 1 beer per episode too, just to clear the palate.
Oh, right, yes.
But we got to drink.
This is not a good light. We don't look
have to
really
drink
right
faster.
Now.
Well, Speaking of which, and
since it's our gimmick, our brand, we'll pour a little whiskey. Why not?
It's Monday night.
It is Monday night. It's a school night, but screw it. There's no school.
But
it's lockdown.
Both of us are doing home office because of lockdown, because of Corona. So we're home anyway. So is it a normal Monday? Not really.
Nah, not a normal
Cheers.
Monday.
Cheers.
So we're like this show is called A South African in Germany watching two Americans in Germany drink whiskey. This is fun.
The weirdest porn ever made.
Yeah, and you know what? There's probably an audience for it somewhere. Like there's an audience for it.
Audience.
So let's talk about your stories for a second now. Alex, let's start with you. How is it that you're in Germany and why?
Okay, so I am in Germany because of a very spontaneous decision after a conversation I had with a college friend who lived in Berlin for a year already. She just got back from the club and she was messaging me on Facebook, just talking about her time in Berlin, whatever. And I was like, wow, that sounds so awesome. And at that point, I just graduated university. I didn't have the job in my field, which is education. I was working at a pizza place. I was living with my parents. So I wasn't, where I really wanted to be.
Right.
But I was also 22 years old. So, I didn't really have crazy goals anyways at that point. And then I was like, oh, I'd love to go there. She's like, just come on over. Just come. And I was like, yeah, find me a job. And she's like, there's plenty of kindergarten jobs in Germany. Just come on over. And I'd never been to Europe in my life before. I've only been out of the States a few times, and that was like to Canada. So I kind of thought about it. I looked up some articles. I was like, well, Berlin looks pretty cool. I'm 22 years old. Looks like a big party city. I want to party.
Yeah.
She told me I could stay with her. No problem. And I went to my mom a few days later and I said, Mom, I think I want to move to Germany. And she looks at me, and I come from a Jewish family, and my mom can be a kind of stereotypical Jewish mother sometimes. So I expected her to just be like, no way, you're staying here. She's like, I can see that. I can see you doing that.
Wow.
And
Nice.
I've always kind of been a bit of the black sheep of the family.
Right.
So I don't think it was very surprising to her, but still, like, the furthest I lived from home was 45 minutes away, And she didn't expect me to stay here. I didn't expect me to stay here. I had no expectations. And so, I bought a ticket for about 2 months later. I tried to save up as much money as I could. And then, I dipped off, moved to Germany, got off the plane in Tegel Airport in October 1st. And it was rainy, cloudy day, Berlin winters. And I was like, this is disgusting. Why am I here? This is not Europe. You're supposed to be pretty and like romantic. This is like really gross.
Yeah.
And then I fell in love with him the first 2 weeks. And then, I found a job and never left.
That's it. So what is the reason that you stayed? You just kind of fell in love with it and still in love with it?
Oh, man. I mean, I could talk about Berlin all day, and that's why the podcast about it, Yeah. I think the main reason is it really aligns with my ideals as a human of what I like to do in my life. And Berlin really aligns with me. And also the other reasons are like, healthcare, the education system here, working as a kindergarten teacher. I much prefer the system here than in the States. Living in an international community in a big city, being in the center of Europe, being able to travel so easily, so cheaply, kind of anywhere. The list can go on forever.
Mention your girlfriend.
Oh, my girlfriend, of course.
That's a little late in the list, buddy. That's a little late in the list.
Thanks, Geoff. But yeah, there are a million reasons. In my opinion, it's the best city in the world, and I would not want to live anywhere else.
Okay. Yeah,
that's high praise, man.
I love it so much. That is high praise.
It's worth it. It is.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah. And what about you, Geoff?
When did that all start? So, I mean, I was always for some reason, I was always into Europe. I was always watching these kind of like Rick Steves travel shows when I was a kid. And then when I graduated high school, the first thing I did that summer was a backpacking trip to Europe with a good friend of mine. And that just like, God, that was an explosion in my brain. I mean, that just really opened up my need to travel. And also, part of that trip was through Germany. And I can't even explain the reasons why at that time, because it's a long time ago, but I just really fell in love with Germany. And for the next few years, I would come back, I would get a job and make up money just for my next trip back to Europe, another backpacking trip, fell in love with Europe. And then eventually I just said, I want to know what it feels like, even just for 3 months, just to go live abroad somewhere,
right.
Just as like a cultural experience. So at that time, I really wanted to move to Munich, but then I found out how much is Munich?
It's expensive. It is expensive.
Mr. 21-year-old, with a not high-paying job, can't move there. But Vienna wasn't that far, and I heard it was cheap, so I went to Vienna. And so I moved to Vienna, started taking just German classes. Never been happier, because I always wanted to learn German. So I'm taking some German classes. Was there a few months. And I was only supposed to be there for 3 months, but then I just realized I don't want to go back. I'm really enjoying what's happening right now. But Austria is just too small as an expat to find a job.
Right.
And literally at a party, I bumped into a German guy who was from Berlin. He's like, "Oh, come to Berlin. So many jobs for expats." And, much bigger. That's the worst German accent ever. Awful.
It was terrible.
And so eventually just kind of, on a whim, I kind of said, you know what? Yeah, I should go there because kind of I'm running out of money. So I'll go to Germany, try to find a job. Went for a few months to Berlin, but eventually I had prepared to go to Europe just for 3 months to take some classes. I wasn't prepared for getting a job. So I had done no research. So after about a year in Europe, I was like, okay, you have to go back home. You're broke. So I went back home and then spent the next year and a half just working, just making money to save up for my return to Berlin because I'd absolutely fell in love with Berlin those 3 months I was there. Right. And then eventually made it back because I didn't want that to be my story. Like, oh, I moved to Europe. It lasted 3 months, then I screwed it up and I went back. So I was like, no, you're going to try it one more time. So
you go make this work.
Exactly. So I went back for that second college try, and that was 9 years ago. And here I am, still here. So
wow,
nice.
Yeah. And of course, I stay, in the beginning, because I fell in love with Berlin and Germany. And then eventually enough years go by, at least for me, there's a time where the honeymoon period is over and you kind of lose kind of love with it. But then, then your career picks up and then you meet your girlfriend and then you make all these friends and suddenly without realizing it just became home. And then that's, without even trying, a lot of my friends back in the States every Christmas were like, when are you coming back? And I'm like, I don't know. And then eventually,
the age-old question. When are you coming back?
Eventually the story is, well, probably not anytime soon, just because, I don't know, my life is suddenly there. Well. I don't know how. Who knows? Yeah.
But that is an interesting point of at some point it becomes home. And I don't think there's a one time, know it kind of just happens. Yeah, it's interesting.
But I also like what you said, because I can relate to that as well. There's a phase after the honeymoon period where it's not working or you just dislike it. For me, it was like that as well. There was a period, and it came quite a while after I got into Germany. The honeymoon phase lasted a long time for me, but there was a point, I think maybe a year and a half into it, where I was just like, screw this. Everything's so much effort. And then you go home and visit, everything's effortless. You just go into a store and you buy something. Yeah. And you just think, what am I doing even? I'm never going to learn this language. People hate me there. So
you start questioning all the reasons you're there. Yeah. And like you said, every Christmas you go home, suddenly everything's in the language that you understand. Everyone understands your jokes, your humor. Yeah. And I think I had maybe a year, maybe even 2 years where I wasn't hating it, but I was strongly thinking, okay, maybe my days here are numbered, I'll wait it out, see what happens. But then, things happened and, didn't just stuck around.
And
I never had that.
Yeah, never had that. You just loved it.
Yeah, he also got his German girlfriend on literally day one. So
I love her. She's amazing. But that's also kind of separate from the city as well. There's always times we have these thoughts. I've had these thoughts of, what am I doing here? Is this worth it?
Yeah.
But I'm not maybe I'm still in the honeymoon phase after
that would be funny.
7 years.
That would be
really
funny.
Long honeymoon. Yeah.
the drop is coming soon. It's just going to happen after 10 years.
Every other shoe to drop, it's going to be hard.
It'll be in his mid 40s. Suddenly he'll wake up and be like, oh my God, what am I doing? This city's awful.
I have a really, really tough midlife crisis. Yeah. Really tough.
Honey, I think I'm having culture shock. Yeah. So that's very interesting. And the other question that I have is, how did you guys meet each other?
So I work with his girlfriend. Okay. We work together in the kindergarten, and he would kind of come around every once in a while. It's the bar. Oh, this is Geoff. Hey, Geoff, what's going on? And we actually never really started hanging out one-on-one together until we started the podcast.
Really?
Yeah, it was a lot of group hangouts. So
a lot of group hangouts.
So we were good and had good times, but we didn't have a one-on-one relationship.
No.
And I'm pretty sure that the first time me and him were in a room, just me and him, was that first podcast episode recording day. I'm pretty sure
because even that episode we didn't meet up beforehand to plan it. We just kind of sat down and recorded it.
Right.
Yeah. And the podcast is the reason why we're friends now. It's weird because usually you become good friends, then you make a podcast.
That's what I assumed.
But we were like okay friends, and our girlfriends were friends as well, and they were the ones who actually suggested we should do a podcast.
Right.
And then we did it, and we actually became much closer because of the podcast.
Our relationship grew with the podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah, so with our whiskey collection.
I was going to say maybe the whiskey has something to do with it. I'm not an expert in these matters, but could be.
I don't even know Geoff sober, you know.
And you got to keep the podcast going to keep the relationship going, because if it's ever gone, then this might be gone.
Oh my God, that'd be sad.
That's a really sad.
Wow,
that's a sad thought.
Sorry,
the bottle goes empty, and suddenly we just don't like each other anymore.
And no podcast, no bottle, and you're like figure out that you actually hate each other.
This guy's an asshole.
So. Yeah, that's a great story, and I think it's obvious that you guys have great chemistry when you listen to your podcast. You like really connect with each other, and it comes across, and it's all part of the banter and the great chemistry that you guys have.
And that's the only reason probably the show didn't end 50 episodes ago. You know, like because if you didn't have chemistry, because as you know, a podcast is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And if you did not like the person you're doing it with, that podcast would end very, very fast.
Yeah.
Like recording days a day, I always look forward to. It's always after work. I'd stop over, get some chicken burgers, and then we hang out, think about the episode, eat the burgers, have a beer, and then we record. Like I always look forward to Wednesdays. It's always a really good, high of the middle of the week. It's good.
Yeah. I've always said like the reason I do the podcast is for that 1 hour where it's just me and Alex talking. Like it's like none of the other stuff, none of the social media, none of the like. It's like it's really the hour we're recording. That's the moment I think that's why we keep doing it. And of course, just because like we have so much fun with the people that send us messages and everything. But
and then especially during Corona, because bars have been closed, restaurants have been closed. There's not a lot of social areas to go to. So at least once a week we can have a chat. Like the way we record is kind of like we're at at a bar. We're just kind of it's very casual and just doing our thing. Yeah. So it's kind of like, sitting at a smoky, dark bar with a whiskey and just talking about, whatever we feel like that week. So it's kind of cool. Yeah.
So how is that whiskey? What are you drinking, by the way? Did I ask that?
Right now we have a Glenfiddich, and it's in our classic, not official bottles. Right. Because every week we have to split the bottle. So we have these little ones, and Geoff prints out a little label. Yeah. So I have the real bottle at home. He has this one. Every week we switch off who gets the real bottle.
Yeah. Right. And it started because of lockdown, because when the first lockdown came, we thought, well, we can't be each drinking a different whiskey. We have to drink the same whiskey.
Because we'd record separately.
So we're like, okay, well, we have to somehow meet up, and can we buy these little plastic glass bottles and then put half of the whiskey in that bottle. Then you can take that bottle. Then we have at least the same whiskey. So it feels kind of like we're in the same room still, because we're sharing an experience, so.
Luckily we can meet up right now. I just got tested today. I'm COVID negative. So I get tested fairly regularly. So, and under German rules, we're allowed to meet up, one household. So we're always going by the law.
This is all legal, people. This is all legal. Just to be clear, okay? This is all legal. Okay,
it's all legal. We're going by the rules.
We follow the rules. Speaking of which, that brings me kind of to what I wanted to discuss with you guys. So recently on my podcast, well, not recently, over the last year, I've had guests that bring up similar topics, similar themes keep popping up in all of the interviews. And one of the things that keeps popping up is a question of identity. So
sure,
the way that I've experienced is it's different for different guests and everything. But the big thing is obviously you're moving to a foreign culture, as people who have moved to Germany are doing. It's a different language here. And there's a whole lot of different things that can affect who you are when in this new culture.
Yeah, like for sure.
And I think it's things that you only realize when you get to Germany or any country basically, but we're talking about Germany now, obviously. So, and this is something I wanted to talk about with a guest on my show, and it just so happened that I got in touch with you guys at the same time. I was thinking that this is it. So this is the topic that I want to run by you guys.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example from my perspective. Like when I've given this a lot of thought. So from my perspective, there's many aspects of ways that Germany changed me. I've been here for a long time, so I've changed a lot as well. Like I'm very much Germanized. But one of the biggest things for me, and I don't know if you guys experienced something similar, is that back home, I relied very heavily on my sense of humor for as my one of my main personality points. Like I was always the funny guy. I was the guy making jokes. I was the guy, usually bad jokes, but still like that. Even if it was bad, it was my thing. Like that was what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it was the way I socialized. It was the way I kind of put myself into situations. If it was, in fact, the more uncomfortable, the more I would joke to kind of like get away from that discomfort, or or if I was feeling insecure about something, I would joke about it. So there was a lot of humor. And then I moved to Germany and discovered that I couldn't do that anymore. And there were two reasons for that. The first reason was I couldn't speak German, so that there was no way to make a German joke.
They don't even know what you're saying. So
big reason.
No. Although my German was quite funny, I should imagine, but it wasn't the reason that I would really want to be funny. And then the other reason was that the Germans react differently to jokes. So with the combination of these two things, even when I was speaking in English to German and making the same jokes that I would back home, they would just land badly, like really, really badly. And then I would stuck it with the even worse social situation that I had to start off with. And suddenly that whole aspect of what I saw as my identity, being the funny guy, that was the way I get into social situations, was gone. Like it was absolutely gone. And it's something that I've had to reinvent myself in social situations as time has gone by. So I was wondering, and maybe we'll start with you, Alex, if you have similar experiences. In fact, let's not start with one person. Which one of you guys has an idea of?
I'll let him go first.
Yeah, I go first. It's fine. I mean, kind of like a carbon copy experience as you. I still, I like to do a lot of humor, a lot of quick little jokes, even if it's sometimes not the right moment.
Yes.
But that's kind of how my brain works. Is just going to that part of the humor section of my brain, is kind of blurting it out, for better or for worse. And for sure, coming to Germany, that part's gone. And I try in German, and after a few years, and my German gets better. It's kind of getting there, but I feel like, which I'm sure you guys both feel the same way, is that myself in German is a bit of a different person than I am in English.
Completely.
And I feel like no matter how good my German is, it's still not going to be the same. Yeah. There are always cultural jokes that people won't get that always go, down the back of my head. Like, oh yeah, like this. And it's a dead silence.
And then you have to explain what is this, and then it just ruins. When you have to explain a joke, it gets ruined.
Exactly.
So,
Or like, I do a lot of like self-deprecating Jewish jokes. They don't land that good in Germany sometimes.
Well, because they're like, should we laugh? We shouldn't laugh. No, we shouldn't laugh. No.
We should not laugh.
Sometimes I do them on purpose to make people uncomfortable because I want to see how they react, Yeah. But even like some of my really good friends, my best friends, and they still don't know whether they can laugh or not. So that's kind of more for myself than anyone else. But yeah, for sure. Like the personality is totally different. And I feel like sometimes, like I'm a very outgoing person. I'm a very type A personality. If people meet me, I'm automatically like, if I go to a party with random people, I'm going to find people to hang out with and be friends with. Like that's just who I am. And I feel like in German sometimes, I think people don't see that part of me. I might be like more of the quiet guy. Yeah. All of a sudden, I'm not a quiet guy.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I have to consciously kind of break that barrier of my uncomfortability and just be like, you know what, screw it, Alex. Go be yourself at this party. Try your German. Try whatever you want. And if you look like an idiot, look like an idiot. But it's hard to kind of monitor myself sometimes, and I feel like I have to because I'm like I'm uncomfortable. The language isn't there. I don't know anybody. But then sometimes, I just kind of try to break through that. But still, it's not my personal identity, I guess.
Yeah.
Very, very similar.
Yeah. So you feel more yourself when you're back in the States because you can be the 100% yourself rather than just 92% or whatever it is.
I guess that's the question though. Like now myself has changed. So I think I still am 100% myself.
Right. Okay. True.
But myself is now just different. And what that means, I don't know. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have family and friends back home when you go home commenting on ways that you may have changed, or that do they observe it? Do they feel that something has changed?
Sometimes, yeah. I think I'm definitely more politically outspoken since I moved to Germany, because a lot of Germans are very political, based on history, and I've learned a lot from it. So I'm definitely much more involved in politics. So I think my family kind of gets annoyed sometimes when I'm, especially in the States, when I'm talking a lot about politics. Like, can you not anymore? I'm like, all right, yeah, fair enough. Yeah. But also, I think so. I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe they're just quiet about it. My friends have definitely said some things like, you're a little bit different.
But they mean that in general.
Yeah, like in general, it's like a little bit different, dude. But I think my personality is still more or less the same. And I think also you kind of have, it's kind of like as humans, we kind of have this, we compartmentalize ourselves. You have yourself with your family, you have yourself with your friends, you have yourself with your kids. Yeah. And I think like when I'm with my high school friends or my college friends, when I go back to the States, I kind of go back to like my 18-year-old Alex self, you know, making dick jokes all the time, like more than I do now. But you know what I mean? So I don't know.
It's just hard to do, but believe you me.
I mean, it was like a good dick joke.
I mean, come on. Come on.
It's classic. Like, I'm coming off really bad right now.
No. I think when I go back home, I think I'm more relaxed than I used to be, because, and not just from living in Germany, but also just traveling a lot and having lived in Germany. Like, being back home is just so easy that like I like, you know, like in Germany you go through so much bureaucracy and headaches and pain over the littlest trivial kind of stuff, that when I'm back in the US, everything is just so much easier. That I'm much more like, I'm just very relaxed, because I'm like, because it feels just like, this is as hard Germany is. It's like US is down here. So I'm much more relaxed, open, maybe more than I used to be, just because I'm like, hey, this is nothing compared to what my day-to-day life is. You know what I mean? Like,
that's true. Yeah. You says those more stressful things every day than you are in the States.
Yeah. So I think maybe that's like the biggest way I've changed is I'm just like, hey, here I am, no big deal. Like, much more going with the flow, way more chill. Yeah, I think so. Not that I wasn't like super chill before, but you know, I think more so, definitely.
But do you ever get like I get more like kind of pissed off at some American things that I'm used to from Germany?
Sure.
Like when I go to a restaurant and the waiter's coming to me, how is everything? Can you stop? I'm trying to eat my food. Stop asking me if I need something. I'll call you, man. Here's your check. I don't want my check. I want a coffee, or like I want to hang out some more. So like when I go to the restaurants in the States, I don't enjoy it anymore.
But that's true. I think I'm the opposite. I enjoy it because I'm actually getting a free goddamn glass of water. Yes. And not just one, I'm getting refills. You're getting a free cup of coffee and 50 refills. Yes. And it's like, thank you. It's a hot day. They give you that free glass of water, and that's just like your foundation. And then they let you order a separate drink or cola or beer or whatever.
Yeah. Couldn't care less.
Yeah. Also probably bottomless.
I care because I'm not going to pay €4 for this tiny little fancy puree glass bottle. Like, that's bullshit.
I'll
sorry.
pay €4 if after I get it, you go away and let me enjoy my food and my company and my friends.
Stop asking me questions.
I worked in restaurants for 7 years. I understand the hustle. I get it.
You were doing it. Yeah.
But now living in Europe, where I can sit down for 8 hours and no one's going to bother me unless I need something.
Yeah.
When I go to the States now, I just feel so rushed. I can't enjoy my food.
Yeah.
And it's just too much. I don't need to know your name. Sorry. I don't need to know your name. I don't need to know your back life story. I just want you to come over, bring my food. I'll give you your tip, and that's it, you know?
Yeah.
Let's move on with our lives.
But one other thing is, though, that I do love about going back to the States is suddenly everybody's friendly. You can make a friend with the person standing next to you at the bus. Like, it's such a different social dynamic that you get so used to in Germany. Okay, leave everybody alone, be quiet, do not talk on the subway, act a certain way, and suddenly you're just standing there in line at the Burger King, and the guy behind you just, for whatever reason, just start talking about his life story to you, and it's kind of nice, and people are so friendly to you, and I do love that. I wish there was a hint of that in Germany, a little bit more. Like, you know, I miss that every time I go back for Christmas.
Yeah, I've experienced the same thing going back to South Africa, because and that was part of my identity as well. Also, just like talking to people and just enjoying people's company. And I've definitely become, I think you were saying it, Alex, I've become more introverted since being in Germany. And even when I go back, that's something that people notice about me, is that I'm more closed in some ways. But then, like you say, I have an interaction. I went to some event when I was in South Africa the last time, and there was this guy standing next to me, and he just started talking to me, and before we know, we were talking about his kids or something, and just just chatting about him. And then he said goodbye. We that was it. There was no need for phone numbers. There was no expectation we would ever meet again. That was just a great moment that we shared, and then he was out of my life forever. And like you, I missed that a little bit, and that was something that definitely had to change for me as well. Coming here is that this sort of openness that I had to tone it down and kind of figure out the situation and fit it to whatever situation I was in, which is
for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, an example of when I think for the first thing I noticed when I first moved here in the first months was, again, I was still just so American. And, in America, it's not unusual to talk about personal things with somebody you just met at a bar or whatever. And so in those first few months when I'm through certain Facebook groups or whatever, I'm trying to make friends. I'm trying to meet up with people. I'm meeting up with Germans, and I could tell how taken aback they were when I would say something that I didn't consider that personal to them, but and you could just see it on their face. It's kind of like repulsion. Like, oh, why is he talking about this now already? I've only known him for an hour.
Yeah. And give us a few months, then you can tell me about this.
Yeah. And it made it so that over time, I did become a lot less open because I saw, okay, especially Germans don't like that. So I think I became much more repressed over time. And, and only around certain people when I know, okay, they're cool with this. I bring out the full Geoff that used to exist. You know what I mean? But
it's kind of funny because, I sometimes miss those human interactions as well. But then like I agree with all of you, what you guys have said. And I'm kind of the same way now. But then sometimes when someone wants to talk in the States, I'm like, I don't want to. Why are you talking to me?
Yeah,
who are
that's
you?
Me. That's me now.
Because you've gotten trained though by Germany. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's better or worse. Like I don't know. It just is what it is. But it's kind of funny. It also could also just be living in a big city thing. You know what I mean? Like living in Berlin.
Right.
Like I don't want to talk to some random person on the Bahn. I'm on my headphones on. I'm going to work and I'm going back to work. That's all I want to do. But I guess sometimes in the States it will happen. At first I'm like, oh, come on. And then after a while I'm like, wait, hold on. This is nice.
This is nice. Yeah, right.
This is nice.
I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this.
I remember this. Okay.
But up until a certain point, and sometimes people are like, where are you from? Like, oh, I'm from here. Like, I'm at my local bar. I'm from here, but I live in Germany. And then sometimes people just kind of blurt out all these political views.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I don't want to talk about this. This is not fun anymore. This was fun, but now it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Or they think like you're pretentious, and then you get and then it becomes not nice anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But so what is the way, what ways do you guys think that you stay authentic? Because you have to reinvent yourself, like we've been discussing a little bit here. When you're in Germany, I became a little more introverted and like you say, also enjoyed that introversion more than I used to in some ways. Or you're not funny anymore and you have to find a new way to socialize. Like, but what is staying authentic to yourself? Like, or are you just a new person? Is that like... That's where I'm struggling now.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I think it's kind of like anything. I mean, it's kind of hard to say as well because I moved here in my early 20s and now I'm in my 30s. So there's a lot of personal growth there also,
Yeah, that happens anyway, like regardless of where you're going to be. That's
regardless of where you are.
Yeah.
So I try to look at it just like any other type of personal growth, for better or for worse. And I think as long as you're not, like, I'm not pretending to be German, I'm not pretending to be introverted, I'm not pretending to be these things. I just kind of, like you said, it just kind of changes you sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's just who I am now. So I think as long as I'm being true to who I am and what I believe in, then that is who I am. And it just happens to evolve a lot differently when you do live abroad. Yeah. And I've asked myself the same question a million times because it is hard. Like, who is this guy here? I'm not German. I'm not even really American anymore because I live here.
Right.
But I am still American. I want to, but at the same time, I want to be German too. But does it even matter? Does it matter if I'm German or American? I'm just Alex, just living here.
Yeah.
So I think these are questions I think most people who live somewhere else think about. I'm assuming at least.
Yeah.
If not, then you're not self-reflecting enough, I guess.
Yeah, sure. No, I agree. But honestly, I find it sometimes there are situations where it's hard to be authentic. And I think most of those involve when it's a completely German language interaction, for example, if I'm visiting my girlfriend's family who they don't speak English, everything's in German. and I can speak a level of German, and my girlfriend always compliments me on my German, but like it's only in those situations when it comes to speaking German, I become a very boring, shy version of myself.
Sure.
And I hate it because I can't be authentic.
But that still is you, though.
But it's
still
not
you.
It's not me, though. It's
a part of you.
No, but it's not though. Like I'm being shoehorned into it for those 2 days that I'm visiting our family. You know what I mean? Like because that's the kind of I love visiting your family. Every time I come back, I'm always like, but I hate it. I couldn't show them the real Geoff. Like I usually I crack jokes and I'm much more talkative, and suddenly I'm talking very little because sometimes it takes me so long to formulate a response that by then the topic's gone, and so there's no point, or just like I'm of course I'm understanding what they're talking about, but not at a complete level where I could really insert a comment, or just like so. And also you're maybe not so confident in your German, so you're just talking less. And so I always, the first time I met her parents, I was like, I really hope they don't think that that's me, because I'm not that boring. I'm not that quiet. I'm not just a shy guy. That's just the German language version of Geoff. You know what I mean? Like that's not normal version of Geoff.
I totally agree with you, but I don't think you're necessarily being inauthentic.
Well, because it's not me. That's why I feel.
But it's still not you. Yeah, for sure.
So that's why I
totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I think what you said really made sense to me as well. And I feel it even now. I've been in Germany for 13 years, and I still am in situations sometimes where I feel exactly what you said, Geoff. You can't show them who you are. Like I just sit there at a table. Like I had an experience a few months ago where I was at a table with a whole bunch of Germans. They're Franconian here, so they've got a heavy dialect. So it's even more difficult to keep up. I'm getting better. I'm getting better, but it's really tough. And, everyone's talking so quickly, and then I sit at the table just not saying anything, and then I lose the thread if I'm trying to figure out what to say, and then suddenly, shit, I've lost track of what they're saying now, so I'm out of this conversation now.
And then you realize 5 minutes has gone by, and oops, I haven't said anything.
Yeah. and then it looks like I'm aloof, like I'm trying, that I'm not wanting to be, because they know that I can speak German, so they think that maybe my German's better than it is, or that I'm able to follow every single conversation. So then they see me as kind of like, as distant or aloof, and like you say, shy and boring and unintelligent. Like that's something that comes across a lot, because you can't give your opinions, and you can't give your opinions in time, that you come across as dumb. So I'm sure like so many Germans walk away from me thinking, what an idiot. I mean, it may be true, but not for the reasons they think.
For sure. And I think that's an interesting, like, I don't even know the answer to this question, even though we're all living it, is like, how do we even deal with that? Yeah. Of like having a percentage of our life where we can't even be ourselves.
Yes. And there are those situations.
How you deal with it
happens all the time.
How you deal with it is honestly just you have to become 100% fluent, and then you deal with you know what I mean? Like that's really the only way to deal with it is just get your German level up to a point where you can express there's not a situation where you can't express yourself, you know what I mean? But that takes hard work and time.
I think it takes a lifetime.
Nuance.
Yeah. I think it takes a lifetime, because like I said, I've been here 13 years, and I feel and it's now situation dependent. Oftentimes I will be in a situation before where I was completely lost, and I will just be myself and able to express myself and get things out. And then there'll be a similar situation a day later, and I will be completely lost and out of it. So it's also a bit unpredictable. So I never know which Sean is going to show up in the situation. Basically.
There are some days where like I'm like, you know what? I am German. I can speak to anybody. I can go to Angela Merkel and talk politics with her. And then the next day I wake up and all of a sudden I can't even say the word, me.
You can't order a coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like I always tell people, like there's two different brains. There's the English brain and the German brain. And the thing is, if the English brain is on, if somebody comes up to you on the street and starts speaking German, it takes 2 or 3 sentences before your brain, because your brain is searching for English words out of those German words, right? And then suddenly realizes, no, it's German, gotta switch to German. And then you're like 3 sentences behind already, and then it's like, sorry, wie bitte? And then they think, oh God, he doesn't speak any German. It's like no, my brain.
I need a moment.
I need the moment. Like, sorry, I was talking with my
dumb. Yeah. I'm not dumb.
Yeah, especially if you were just talking to your friend in English, your brain is so set in that case. Or
like the German exhaustion, like after a weekend or like 5 days at my girlfriend's parents' place.
Yeah,
and we drive back, we're on the subway back, and I'm like, oh my God, can we speak some English again?
Yeah, I got nothing left. I got nothing left.
Melting. It's melting out of my ears from just 5 days of pure German all day.
Yeah.
But it's also topic specific. I've had times where, depending on the topic, depending on what I did learn back in school or whatever, I'm rolling for half an hour, then suddenly the topic switches, and I have no idea what they're saying. And then the Germans look at me like, wait, what's wrong with you? Like, you speak German, you were just speaking German a second ago. Like, why aren't you saying? And it's like, no, it's like so hard to explain. It's like, sorry, like,
now I'm stupid.
I left school before they brought up that stuff. I don't remember. I didn't learn that stuff.
How do you explain it to somebody?
You can't.
You can't.
It's like hit and miss though. It's so weird what vocabulary I know and what random vocabulary I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. But
or have you ever been in a situation where, like, and you're mid sentence and you're like the word. And then at that point, you're like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Yeah. But everyone's waiting for you to finish because the Germans are staring and they're waiting for that last verb. What's the verb you're going to put at the end of that sentence? And you cannot remember. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to die. It's like a bad dream. Just wake me up right now.
As you're like just sinking in your chair, like, please go away.
It's that word.
Just like disappearing. But it is, and it must, like you said, it must seem so funny to the Germans, or like so strange that one moment they're having fun, we're like connecting, and then the next moment he's just like looking at me, frowning, trying to figure out words. I'm like, who am I dealing with?
And then they think you're faking it, or you don't want to talk anymore or something. It's like
that's
no, it's like I missed that day in German school. I didn't learn about fucking medical words. I don't know. Sorry.
Or they just reference some random cultural thing that they don't understand that you would not possibly know. Like that happens to me a lot as well. They just assume, and rightfully so, that you, like, everybody knows the same things that they do but people who didn't grow up here might not know what they're referencing. So suddenly with a simple reference, like, we're out, we don't.
Yeah, I try to do, like, when my girlfriend visits the States with me, and people were having conversation and they mentioned something very specific, like the name of a store or something, I always try to lean to my girlfriend and be like, that's like that's a this, or like Costco is a really big place where you can buy, just because like with that one word, that one reference, suddenly she's completely out of the conversation. She's like, and so I try to, like, because the people around forget that she probably doesn't know what the hell that is that you just said. Like, she doesn't know what a Blockbuster is. She doesn't know what this is, or that is.
But I think the dumbest I've ever felt, or when I feel sometimes, is when someone asks me a question in like a big group and I just don't understand the question.
Oh yeah, I know.
So they ask you, and then they're just staring.
And you're trying, and it's like not there.
I could ask them what they said again, but I heard them the first time, and I know those words I don't understand. So I don't know what to do at this moment.
It's so
it's a lot of dead air.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of dead air. It's very tricky, but it's all things that, and like you said, it does get better though. It does. With time, the more you learn German, the more you learn how to express yourself. You can start being more whoever you're going to be. You'll never be, I find that I'm never the same person that I am in English, which is because I speak quickly. I make a lot of throwaway comments. You can't do that in Germany. Like, Germans don't understand throwaway comments. And also, like, that self-deprecating humor. They don't get it. Like, why would you say that about yourself? Like, why would you even...
You're a great guy. Don't say that.
You're cool, man. Don't know.
Like,
no.
they think you're being serious. Like, oh my God, he has like a problem with depression, or what's wrong with him,
We had a conversation with a few of my friends who are German, and all of them told me that the first impression that I gave off, they didn't like me at all. Like, I thought you were an asshole. You're making fun of people. You're making fun of yourself. And like, until I got to kind of know you a bit more, I realized, like, it's all jokes, and like, you're kind of speaking a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
And that was when I realized, like, oh man, like, this is, they don't get this at first. Yeah.
And that's a good point. Like, you might not even realize that they're not getting who you are, and you're just wondering, why are Germans reacting to me this way? But it's because they don't understand what you're trying to do. They don't get you, and you're not bringing it across in a way that they could, like, get. So it's
now they do. Now that we're friends, we understand each other now, But like, when I learned I gave up a terrible, like, his girlfriend hated me when she first met me.
True. Yeah.
Those are the best relationships at the beginning, though. That's the people you become the closest friends to.
This guy's a dick.
But honestly, there's a certain German reaction though in the face that you get used to, that you can tell when they're not getting what you're putting out.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you get more attuned to it, and then now when I see it, I go, at least try to explain what I just said, or I just move on. Like, okay, they're not getting it. They're not
it's a little
with that.
scrunched up, little scrunched up look where they're just like staring at you, trying to, like, not say anything, just trying to figure out something, and you're like, okay,
right,
I get it. It's a very good impression from both of you, for the people that can see the video.
And they're not trying to be mean or anything. It's like they truly do not understand what you just said. And I don't even mean language-wise. Just why did those words come out of your mouth? Not quite sure why you're laughing. What's going on? You know?
Well, I think because generally the German people are just super, super nice, genuine people.
They are, yeah.
And I think when we make jokes like this, especially a lot of English speakers, people in the UK are the same. I think people from Canada, it's just not part of who they are.
Yeah.
So of course it would be a bit awkward. I get it. Absolutely. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we do get it, Germans, but still we can complain. All right, Geoff and Alex, it was so much fun. As the last time on your show as well to chat
as
to you
always,
guys. Had so much fun. So people can find Americans in Germany Drinking Whiskey podcast wherever podcasts are, on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. You can also find these guys on, and I definitely recommend that you go to the podcast. And if I understood correctly, you're also going to be discussing about similar themes, or by the time this airs. Actually, when is this airing? This will come out on Monday, and you guys will be bringing out an episode sometime in the near future.
A little bit after that.
2 days after that.
2 days after.
Yeah,
2 days after this. Yeah. You guys will be discussing.
We will be copying you. So,
it's very flattering that you would imitate me. But you guys will also be discussing issues around identity, but more along the lines of German identity, American identity. If I
like national identity. Yeah,
national identity.
Who are we?
Right. Yeah.
Ooh, that's Who are you? That's going to be a 5-hour-long episode there.
There we go.
Hopefully, it could be terrible.
So definitely go and check that out. It is such a pleasure to have you guys on the podcast, and I hope that we can do something in the future. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
It's always fun.
Yeah, have a good one.
Thanks for listening. Music in this episode by Tencent Janes. Additional music by Ryan Anderson until the end. Stay healthy. Auf Wiederhören.